I want a video about why Better Call Saul is brilliant. How original. That focuses on why the characters are great. Daring today, are we? I'm years late, but I finally watched Better Call Saul. And this show is good. I know, crazy, never before said opinion. Let's get the basics out of the way before I really dig deep into why I love this show. First of all, the actors are amazing and portray these incredibly well-written characters it's so compelling. Okay, you get the point, right? Everyone said that. The show has great visual storytelling with great shots. Like, sometimes they'll use a physical barrier to show an emotional barrier between two characters. So many times you see a composition and just go, wow, that looks really good. Or the camera pulls back to reveal something. Basically, they do a lot of cool stuff with the camera. And the show is mature, not just in the subject matter. It respects your intelligence to not have to explain everything to you and set up things way before the payoff. Sometimes even minor details aren't mentioned again until the next season, and they don't need to have a character, say some line of dialogue to remind you about it. Also, a lot of the songs are very Fallout-esque, like I remember hearing a few Inkspot songs, which was very cool to me specifically. But really, the characters are what make this show great. A lot still happens, a lot of, the cool stuff, we still have Los Pollos and the Cartel and shootouts. All that stuff still happens like it does in Breaking Bad, but as opposed to that show, this one focuses more on the characters, and they're just amazing. And admittedly, I really wasn't even that much into the Cartel stuff, and just that whole side of the show. I mean, it was still there and it was entertaining, but whenever there was a courtroom scene, I was like, hell yeah. I'm going to keep saying it, but the characters are what make this show amazing. Especially with Jimmy. Just when I thought I had a grasp on his character, he would do something or say something that made me rethink everything about him. And it wasn't just him. Every character is so complex, and I love that. Even characters like Rich, when he first appeared, I wrote him off as some scummy lawyer who's defending the evil company exploiting the old people. But then we see more of him later on, and he doesn't seem as bad. Or you have characters like Lalo, who captivate you and terrify you all at the same time. Genuinely, it's amazing watching him because he's so friendly and can say something like, "Just tell me again." And it fills you with dread. He's so good. I'm gonna be quoting, what's he doing, man? What's he up to? I'm gonna be quoting that all the time.
About 6 or 7 miles.
And Nacho is such a tragic character. He chooses a life of crime, but ends up getting used by everyone, even up until his execution. So, in the end, he chooses to tell everyone what he really thinks, and chooses to go out on his own terms. His last conversation with his dad is just such a perfect scene. He can't fix his mistakes or change what he's done, but he can talk to his dad and hear his voice one last time. I have nothing to say about Hector other than, "I need to see your boss," and "The boss can suck me." Anyway, Gus is gay. Yeah, it was kind of implied in Breaking Bad and then more heavily implied in this series, and this is a big talking point for some reason. If anything, it gives more dimension to his character, but there are way more interesting things to talk about with him, so let's do that. Gus is driven by revenge, but that's a pretty common trope, so they do a lot more in this series to make him interesting. He has to deal with the feds and the cartel breathing down his neck all the time, so it's no wonder he has scenes where he's obsessive about cleaning and trying to have control. This series doesn't try to make you think that Gus Fring isn't evil, because he is, but his characterization in this prequel series makes events like his grand revenge in Breaking Bad all the more satisfying. The thing about Gus is he always wears a mask, both in business and when talking to the cartel, with download audio even seeing through it. In the scene where Gus drinks wine, that mask starts to slip, and we see him enjoying himself and thinking maybe he can relax a bit now. He's flirting with this wine guy while he yaps about his special interest, and we see Gus actually happy. But then the guy leaves for a moment, giving him a chance to reflect, and he then realizes that while he's dealt with Lalo, he still has work to do, and the mask reappears. That change from smile to frown is what makes Giancarlo such a good actor. And I was really glad this series took the time to flesh out Mike. He was already one of the most interesting characters in Breaking Bad, but his line, "I've known good criminals and bad cops, bad priests, honorable thieves." It's just so perfect for his character, especially in this show. Kid named Finger does bad things, but for good reasons, like taking care of his granddaughter who never ages. And he knows he has to do things like killing his friend Werner, and he does, but it still haunts him. Mike doesn't really have a moral decline like Walter White. He's always in this sort of morally gray area. And it's interesting because we see so much of him and Jimmy together at the start of the show before they basically go their separate ways, making their scene together at the end all the more special. And there's a lot of other more minor characters I love, like Bill Oakley, who kept showing up. He was really cool. It was cool to see Victor and Tyrus reprise their roles. And Francesca was also great. I never thought much of her in Breaking Bad, but she's a really great character. And screw the Kettlemans. All my homies hate the Kettlemans. Like, seriously, they're scummy people in Season 1, but then they return in the final season, and you're like, okay, maybe they're not so bad, they got what they deserved, they're working just a regular job now. But no, then you realize that they're still scamming people for their money, and it's like, oh, okay, so you're even worse than I thought. God, and they're so annoying. Okay, Apparently people find Betsy Kettleman hot. I don't see it. She's the worst. I hate them. Anyway, let's talk about the lawyers now. Kim is especially interesting because at first I saw nothing wrong with her character. She encourages Jimmy to work towards his goals and become better, but she also holds him accountable. I think we all need friends like that in our lives. And Kim continued to impress me as she realized what matters to her in life, helping people. So she leaves her job as a bank lawyer to help real people in need with her legal expertise. And she has so many great scenes, like the scene where she yells at Howard on Jimmy's behalf, or when this old man bothers her so much because, she can't reason with him, and her character is all about negotiating. Ray Seahorn is just so good at acting. I definitely want to check out this Pluribus show she stars in. Before I watched this show, I only saw memes about her feet, which didn't exactly set my expectations very high for her character, but she surprised me by being way more than just Jimmy's love interest. I don't know how else to describe it, but she's just so human. We see almost every conceivable emotion out of her. We see her ups and her downs, and it just makes her such a likable character. But then she gets this idea when she's having fun with Jimmy to ruin Howard's life. And at that point, I had to question everything I thought I knew about her character. God, this show is just so good, man. And Howard is another interesting character. He strikes me as the kind of guy who not only claps when the plane lands, but also stands up and tries to get everyone else in the plane to clap as well. He's so generic that he becomes interesting. Both he and Chuck are characters the show kinda wants us to not like because they're working against our protagonists, but focusing on Howard, he doesn't really do anything wrong, and he certainly didn't deserve his fate, or what Kim and Jimmy did to his reputation. And Chuck, even more than Howard, is a character easy to hate in the earlier seasons, but as the show goes on, I found it easier to sympathize for him. I figured that his sensitivity to electricity was something else, with my initial theory being that he's allergic to Jimmy, not electricity, and that leads to his physical response. But once you realize it's all mental, it makes a lot more sense. I'm not a psychologist, so I'm sure that some people have analyzed this way better, but whenever Chuck is conscious of electricity around him, he feels uncomfortable, and whenever he's in a safe space, he feels fine. It's like an extreme version of OCD, where if something isn't right, a person has this aching feeling until they can fix it. Anyway, can I talk about Chicanery now? I really want to talk about Chicanery now. First of all, this is easily one of the best episodes in the whole show, where it's all courtroom scenes, Huel makes his grand return, and we get to see one of Jimmy's schemes unfold, but the monologue at the end is just perfect. Everything in this episode was building up to this one moment, and so many things set up in the seasons prior as well. I had seen memes of this monologue before watching the show, and out of context, nothing makes any sense, so it just sounds like this crazy guy ranting about nonsense. But in context, you realize that everything Chuck says here is true. Jimmy swapped the numbers, he got that idiot at the copy shop to lie for him, he orchestrated the billboard, he defecated through a sunroof, and he stole money out of the cash drawer, but it's at this point where the monologue turns from stating facts about Jimmy to Chuck just venting his jealousy of his brother. Chuck is jealous that his delinquent younger brother had his parents' love and adoration, while he only had their respect. So after their parents died, Chuck only had the pride of his accomplishments as a lawyer to hold on to. But then Jimmy goes and tries to become a lawyer like him? If Chuck isn't the accomplished or scholarly one, then who is he? It's easy to hate Chuck for not supporting his brother, even when he works hard to pass the bar, making him a real lawyer in everyone else's eyes, but Chuck really does know Jimmy better than anyone else, and he could see the type of lawyer he would become. Saul Goodman is slipping Jimmy with a law degree.
Like a chimp with a machine gun.
We see even when Jimmy works as a real lawyer for Davis and Maine, he's not happy there, so he does all he can to be let go. So even if Chuck did hire him at HHM, he probably wouldn't have been happy there either.
Dude, I'm from Michigan.
Chuck's death actually took me a while to process. Even as it was happening, I was watching like, this isn't happening. No, this isn't what's going on. What? And Michael McKean. He's such a funny guy, which should be obvious to any of you who have seen the 1985 Clue movie.
I'm gonna go home and sleep with my wife.
But he also manages to do drama so well, and this is something I noticed with a lot of the actors in these two shows. This is especially true for Bob Odenkirk, who was just a funny guy in Breaking Bad, but they expand on his character so much, and Bob does an amazing job portraying this man who is both funny and full of sorrow. There's a story I'm sure you've heard some variation of, where a man goes to the doctor saying he's depressed and he has nothing to live for. The doctor tells him to go see this clown named Pagliacci, who is so funny he can cheer anyone up. The man says, "But doctor, I am Pagliacci." This story and the whole sad clown trope are just so powerful because they remind us that the funniest people are often the saddest, and they just do a good job of hiding it. I think Jimmy and Pagliacci are alike in this way, because Saul Goodman is a mask that Jimmy wears. Jimmy McGill is a lawyer that no one wants. Saul Goodman is a lawyer that everyone wants. Jimmy McGill is a disappointment to his brother. Saul Goodman is funny and everyone loves him. He even wears these colorful outfits and people call him a clown, but We see that inside he's hurting and dealing with loss, guilt, and uncertainty. People love Saul, but no one cares about Jimmy. No one other than Kim. Kim and Jimmy do fun cons together like Jimmy used to do with Marco, and they have a good time, but then that's the problem. They have too much fun and people get hurt. They have this fascinating dynamic where Kim brings out the best in Jimmy while he brings out the worst in her. When they break up, it hurts because you can see they both love each other and want to be together, but they can't because, like Kim says, together they're poison. It's a pretty common thing, oh, star-crossed lovers, they want to be together but they can't, but this show does it in such a great way and I can't even fully express. It's so good, man. When they break up, it's so sad because we jump cut from them both heartbroken to see Jimmy fully embrace Saul Goodman. And when they sign the divorce papers and he barely looks at her, it's just devastating to watch. When I started the show, I was waiting for him to become Saul, but by the time I got to this point in the show, I was sad because it seemed like the last bits of Jimmy were gone. Jimmy McGill is not just Slippin' Jimmy. Saul Goodman is Slippin' Jimmy with a law degree. Saul is a selfish con man, while Jimmy actually wants to help people. And Gene is a fake identity, but neither Jimmy nor Saul. At the end of the show, we see Gene realize he wants to be Saul again, and he is for a little bit until it all goes wrong. But in the end, he realizes that being Jimmy is more important to him. He becomes Saul one last time to negotiate his extreme life sentence down to only 7 years to prove that he could, but once he sees Kim there, his good nature shines through and he admits everything. It almost sounds like he's bragging about his accomplishments, but really he knows it's right, because Jimmy is a good lawyer who believes in truth and justice. Maybe if he had a time machine, he could go back and fix things, pull some elaborate con to make things work out, but he doesn't. A time machine is fiction. So he makes the tough choice and owns up to his crimes. People will always see him as Saul, so he lets them arrest Saul Goodman to allow Jimmy McGill to be free. And he makes peace with that, and with Kim. I think my favorite scene in the show is the opener for the season 4 finale, Winner. The ABBA song Winner Takes It All is so perfect for the show as a whole, and the two characters who sing it. On the surface, it's a nice moment to see these two brothers share a rare moment of camaraderie, but the lyrics of the song hold so much meaning. Building me a home, thinking I'd be strong there, but I was a fool, playing by the rules. The winner takes it all, the loser has to fall. I've already seen a ton of great edits on YouTube that use this song, so I recommend you check those out because, they're way better at editing than I am, so. Also, I don't want to have to worry about this video getting claimed if I play the real song. I almost want to watch the series from the start again to catch more things and all the foreshadowing, like the doctor who said that Chuck was going to start a fire with the gas lamps. And I especially want to rewatch Breaking Bad at some point to really pay attention to Saul, who I see completely differently now, and I guess the other characters too. But to wrap up, I want to finish by saying that this show is a slow burn. I knew this going in, that some things wouldn't have the payoff until way later, but even through the middle, it's just exceptional. I had a lot spoiled for me, like Howard's death and the chicanery rant, but I still thoroughly enjoyed it. So bravo Vince, but also bravo to Peter Gould, and everyone else who worked on this show. The writing is phenomenal, man, and there's just so much more I want to talk about, but if I did, we'd be here longer than Saul's prison sentence. Also, crazy coincidence I need to mention, in Breaking Bad, there's an episode called Better Call Saul, and in Better Call Saul, there's an episode called Breaking Bad, and I watched these two episodes exactly 1 year apart. Crazy. Wait, what the hell is this?